It's crispy, it's square, it's the grandma slice, Long Island's gift to New York's pizza scene. But behind the flour, sauce, and melted mozzarella was a story far from savory. How did one of the island's most beloved pizza makers end up next to a Colombo underboss in a courtroom charged in a Mafia indictment tied to 6 murders? Angelo Giangrande helped put grandma-style pizza on the map, but when a family feud over a pizzeria turned ugly, he didn't call a lawyer. He called his friend, John Sonny Franzese, one of the most feared gangsters in New York Mafia history. What followed was a tale of shakedowns, wiretaps, underworld politics, and a slice of pizza that came with a side of extortion. This is a story of Angelo Giangrande, the pie man who got caught in a mafia war. Let's get into it. Before the FBI raids, before the sit-downs and the wiretaps, Angelo Giangrande was known for one thing: pizza. But not just any pizza, grandma-style pizza, thin, crispy, square, and born right on Long Island. In 2008, Newsday credited 3 men with bringing the grandma slice into the mainstream: Umberto Corteo, Ciro Cesarino, and Angelo Giangrande. Angelo opened Cugini's Pizzeria in Mineola in 1991. His brother Mario helped spread their signature slice across the island, and by 2000, business was booming. That year, Angelo teamed up with his cousins, Angelo and Antonio Franzese, and launched a second shop, Cugini Due, in a nearby Albertsons. They bought the building together for over $500,000. On paper, it was a family dream come true, but behind the scenes, things were heating up and not in the oven. Money got tight, profits got messy, and somewhere between the cash register and the saucepan, the dream started to sour. The cousins started fighting, thin and fighting hard, and according to one source, Tommy Franzese gave Angelo a beating in front of his own son. Word on the street, Tony was planning to cut Angelo out of both restaurants altogether. But Angelo wasn't going quietly. He may not have had muscle of his own, but he had something better. He had Sonny. When family didn't work, Angelo Giangrande turned to his other family. The kind that didn't send holiday cards, just messages. Sonny Franzese wasn't just an old-timer. He was a legend. Feared in the streets, respected in the commission. He was once accused of over 50 rub-outs. And he had this kind of rep where just mentioning his name could settle scores. By the early 2000s, Sonny was 86 years old. But don't let the age fool you. The man still moved weight, shook down businesses, and called shots like it was still 1959. Sonny and Angelo weren't just connected. They were paisans from the same Italian town. Angelo had even gotten Sonny's son a summer job back in the day. So when Angelo needed help taking over the pizzeria, Sonny answered the call from prison. Though locked up on a parole violation, Sonny gave Angelo his blessing and his nephew, Mike Catapano. Catapano was a rising enforcer, a loan shark, an extortionist, and a dope dealer. Alongside him, Joe DeJora, a 63-year-old bruiser from Sonny's old crew, and together they had a plan. For Giangrande, it was a deal of a lifetime. For the Franzese brothers, it was a shakedown wrapped in a handshake. Mike Catapano cornered one brother in a parking lot, and he abused him, as he later bragged. Then he and DeJora paid a visit to Angelo Franzese's hair salon. They didn't say much, and they didn't have to. Inside the shop, Giangrande's mother in the chair. And when the enforcers walked in, Angelo saw them and panicked. He got the message, and he got it fast. The papers were signed. Cugini Due was now Angelo's. Catapano got his $30,000, and Sonny, he had $400 a week waiting for him when he got out of prison. But the thing about mob debts, they don't come with receipts, and they're never really paid in full. At first, everything seemed squared away. The deal was done. The shop was Angelo's, and the muscle got paid. And Sonny would get his weekly envelope eventually. But then the cracks started to show. Catapano didn't hand over the full $30,000. He blew $10,000 and loaned another $9,000 to his partner, Joe DeJora. And the cash meant for Sonny, it was slipping away. Meanwhile, Giangrande was struggling. He'd gotten his restaurant, but he couldn't keep up with the $400 a week tribute to Sonny. He laid low, played it quiet, but you don't go silent on Sonny Franzese. Sonny may have been locked up, but his reach, it was still long. When Catapano and Didora weren't around to collect, Sonny had others to do the work. Guys like Chris Karanovic. He was an Eastern European arms dealer who had been accused of smuggling AK-47s to Kosovo. And then there was Danny Salaj, a stick-up artist with a reputation for violent home invasions. And they weren't just collectors, they were enforcers. And in 2007, when a bar owner refused to pay Sonny his cut, Karanovic rammed a screwdriver through his hand. That wasn't a beating, that was a message. Giangrande must have known what could have happened, but by then he was in too deep, and the only thing more dangerous than being connected is owing the wrong people. Sonny, he wasn't thinking about pizza, he was starting to hear whispers. It was about his son. After a short stretch behind bars, John Sonny Franzese walked free in early 2004. Most men his age will retire quietly. Sonny, he walked out, he took the number 2 spot in the Colombo family, the underboss. He hit the ground running, meeting with bosses, soldiers, and emissaries. The old man was back and business was booming. But what Sonny didn't know was that his son, John Jr., had flipped. John Jr., once a mob hopeful, had become a federal informant. And this time, the feds weren't after headlines. They wanted tapes, and they got them. This wasn't just trash talk. This was confession. Mike Catapano bragging on tape about extorting the Franzella brothers, with John Jr. playing dumb and Frank Campione laughing alone. The whole scene played like a bad mob sitcom. You got a lot of friends with long hair. Don't come back unless you do what I asked. They laughed, but the FBI didn't. And it didn't stop there. A month later, they wired up Jr. again, this time to get Joe DeJora talking. DeJora went on a tirade, furious that Angelo had stopped paying the $400 a week tribute. He was sweating, cursing, raving. He ran about loans, deals, betrayals, and the day where everything went sideways. And this wasn't just emotion, this was evidence, and the FBI was loading the chamber. Sonny Franzese, the old man, he had a soft spot for family, and that would cost him everything. On June 4th, 2008, at exactly 6 a.m., the FBI came knocking on Angelo Giangrande's front door. With no warning, no drama, just cold cuffs and a trip to the Brooklyn Federal Court. Outside the courthouse, it was a zoo. But they weren't there for the pizza guy because Angelo wasn't the headliner. He was just one name on a blockbuster indictment. The feds had dropped a mob bombshell. Tommy Gioeli, the street boss. John Sonny Franzese, the underboss. Mike Catapano, Joe DeJora, and Angelo Giangrande. For Angelo, it was just one charge, extortion conspiracy. But when you're standing next to killers in court, it doesn't feel like just one. He was granted bail. No reporters followed him. No headline screamed his name. And a few months later, he was right back in the paper. Only this time, it was about pizza, not prison. D'Angelo's was getting rave reviews. The article never even mentioned his case. He had pled to a quiet charge, misprison of a felony, and which means he knew about the crime but didn't stop it. So he got 3 years probation and $15,000 in fines, which he paid off in 2015. No jail, no headlines, just a past that was too dangerous to put on the menu. While Angelo Giangrande went back to tossing dough and serving slices, the rest of the Colombo crew faced a much darker menu. Mike Catapano, the muscle behind the deal, took a plea, sentenced to 78 months behind bars. He spent his time in prison wiring light fixtures, and he got paroled in 2016. Joe DeJora served his sentence too, got paroled 2 years earlier in 2014. His threats, his rage, his pride all melted down into time served and a record that wouldn't fade. And then you had Sonny, the old man Franzese. He rolled the dice, went to trial in 2010, and lost. At 93 years old, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. But he walked out of that prison in a wheelchair and lived to be 103 years old, the longest living made man in Mafia history. A lifetime of violence, a son who flipped, and a name etched in both fear and loyalty. John Jr. eventually left witness protection. He now lives openly in Indianapolis. He's the only mobster that I know of to flip, go back, then flip again and survive. And Angelo, his pizzeria, Da Angelo's, is still turning heads. 4 stars on Yelp, a local favorite. Most customers have no idea that the man behind the counter once stood beside a street boss in a Mafia indictment. Thanks for watching. If you like this story, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to Real Mob Stories with James Proctor. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and God bless you always.